So it looks like not everyone's enjoying the new Game of Thrones prequel, even though it racked up some pretty impressive viewership numbers. Some have an issue with how absurd some parts are. Others are just not feeling it. Why the not so great reviews? And where does the show fall flat? Let's get into it. First off, here's why some people find it ridiculous. Something remarkable and unprecedented happened at the end of the 3rd episode of House of the Dragon, the hit prequel to HBO's Game of Thrones. The show's singular exciting character, Prince Daemon, played by Matt Smith, took on legions of enemy soldiers all by himself. He was totally single-handed in this feat. He dodged arrows and fell multiple times to enemies to get to his adversary, the extremely mysterious Crabfeeder. In a series that's gotten plenty of critical acclaim for its ginormous and bloody battles, this one was kind of an awkwardly shot assault course sequence, a video game you couldn't play, you just had to watch. It was hilariously bad. Despite the stellar ratings and record Emmy wins, Game of Thrones was a far cry from being perfect. It had systemic problems pretty early on and wrapped up with a truncated last season that was considered by many as a waste of one of television's richest fantasy stories. Nonetheless, whatever happened across the hit show's 73 episodes was rarely unbelieved and never straight up silly, but somehow Daemon's suicide run to kill what looked like a Phantom of the Opera cosplayer easily evoked plenty of laughter. How is anyone supposed to take the show seriously after that? The issue wasn't that it was unexpected, but it came across like an unfortunate culmination. House of the Dragon can definitely improve. It probably is going to, both because of the circumstances of the text it's an adaptation of, and hopefully the writers learn from their mistakes and don't make them again as the show progresses. But because fans are just so grateful to have Game of Thrones back in their life, be it in the form of a sequel, complete with its old weekly time slot, and the entire service industry of cultural ephemera and commentary surrounding it, it's getting let off the hook for a lot of things which other shows would be brutally criticized for. But how does it hold up next to Game of Thrones? You can't easily separate the new series from the original, and House of the Dragon, fortunately, isn't trying that at least. The show covers the Targaryen Civil War that occurred 2 centuries before Game of Thrones was set. So of course, there was going to be plenty of similar things in both shows, such as imperial power, dragons, and orgies. The creators of the show are, of course, George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal. The former authored the long novels that constitute the still incomplete A Song of Ice and Fire series, the text which Game of Thrones was an adaptation of. Martin kind of got sidelined by Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon definitely has his marks all over it. The series is actually an adaptation of a big part of Fire and Blood, his 2018 novel, that was a history of House of Targaryen. It's full of timelines, synopses of events, and familial detail. It's an outline. The fight for the throne between a ruling dynasty of silver-haired dragon riders sounds really juicy and fun to get into, yes, but on the page, it covers 30 years. Martin's wish to be inclusive and to not rush the opening the way Game of Thrones did its ending means that the first few installments are fleeting incidents that took place years apart. 3 years went by between the second and third, a weird leap that yielded neither relevant change nor did it give us interesting details. Soon, the story will jump forward a decade and fresh cast members will take over the roles. There's also nothing here to hold on to. Don't go anywhere now because we're about to take a look at the things we didn't like about House of the Dragon. Here's where the show falls short. The long gaps sometimes work against the show's aims. House of the Dragon wishes to show us the connivance and cruelty of life atop Westeros through the eyes of 2 teenage girls. First, Princess Rhaenyra, played by Millie Alcock, the female heir to her father, King Viserys, and second, Lady Alicent Hightower, played by Emily Carey, who became Viserys' second wife after his first passed away in childbirth. But their friendship hardly gets a chance to begin when they get divided by succession. Alicent's young son from her marriage with Viserys is obviously the preferable heir for the majority of Westeros nobles. The show desperately needs contrast and earthiness. The royal setting is kind of like its own bubble. There are multiple meetings of the king's ruling small council, but we have zero sense of what's taking place outside the castle walls. Game of Thrones made the friction between classes advantageous for itself and used it within the show in a way that didn't seem unnatural and forced at all. For example, think of the dry wit and insight we could see in the exchanges between the common soldier Bronn and the highborn Tyrion Lannister. That's something missing from this show. Another thing we're sure the fans have left wanting is more screen time with the dragons. House of the Dragon does get some things right. It feels like there's a lot being set up, but not that much is happening. Now, we know why Daemon's mission against the Crabfeeder was crammed into episode 3. It desperately needed more action. Smith's interesting sibling, Viserys' determined younger brother, and the former heir, single-handedly breathes some life into the narrative. He's going to claim all, he's snarling in his monologues, and he's the strongest proof we have that the Targaryens, outsiders who conquered Westeros, deserve their own series. There was even the time Daemon steals a dragon egg because he wanted to put it in his baby's crib, which is one hell of a toy. In the 4th episode, we saw the show's second orgy happening in a brothel. As you can see, some things are a constant in Westeros, but the sexual attraction between Daemon and Rhaenyra, Targaryens usually wed each other to preserve the bloodline, was a sign that the creators have finally began getting to grips with the otherworldly heritage and uncomfortable traditions of their main subjects. It was an unpredictable moment in the show that's been too staid. We're hoping that the show picks up the pace as the season finale draws nearer, but it's tough to deny that almost everything we've seen in the episodes this far isn't satisfying us completely. Other related news: the Kardashians did a parody of House of the Dragon. If House of the Dragon didn't entertain you enough, the Kardashians have now cast themselves as the new Targaryens in a parody. Kim Kardashian has shocked her fans with her amazing transformation for a new comedic sketch of House of the Dragon on The Late Late Show with James Corden. The Kardashian and Jenner clan collaborated with Corden, who plays a bratty and entitled king, as they made the parody sketch, which was hilariously titled The Targashian. Kim herself took on his sister, who actually desires the Iron Throne for herself. Kylie also showed up towards the end of the sketch. She tries to steal the throne, proclaiming that there's only one king in this kingdom, and it's King Kylie. The oldest Jenner, Kris, played their mom-dubbed Momager of Dragons, who just wants her children to stop fighting. It was quite entertaining. The Kardashian clan recently made a hot comeback on TV earlier in 2022 with a reality show on Hulu after an impressive 20-season run. Let's take a look at the viewership numbers. The viewership of the Game of Thrones prequel has come to a stable pace. Episode 5 of the show garnered 3% more US viewers than Episode 4 did, Variety reported. Besides that, Season 1 is now drawing in an average of 29 million viewers for the first 5 episodes. That's a gigantic audience for any cable series, and a very good sign that it's going to be as successful as Game of Thrones, which averaged over 44 million viewers every episode for its last season in 2019. Overall, the statistics tell us that House of the Dragon, now halfway through Season 1, has found its audience. Almost 10 million people tuned in for Episode 1. It set a record for being HBO's biggest series premiere to date, whereas Episode 2 got 10.2 million. We didn't get the streaming data for Episode 3, but we know that its Labor Day weekend debut had a 1 million drop in cable viewership. But as Variety reported exclusively, Episode 4 viewership shot up by 5% across the streaming platforms. And with Episode 5's 3% jump, it seems that the series has now got itself a retention rate that is likely to stay stable as Season 1 keeps going. Finally, fans have an interesting theory. The Maesters in Westeros are scholars who counsel the rulers of the Seven Kingdoms on all matters medical, scientific, and historical. While acting as neutral characters, fans are now wondering whether that's really the case. Even though Maester Pycelle admitted fealty to House Lannister instead of the realm in Game of Thrones, Grand Maester theorists always point out a specific passage in A Feast for Crows as solid proof that the Maesters are orchestrating war and peace behind the scenes. You know, the one in which Marwyn pretty much admits that Maesters can't be trusted either. While we don't know exactly what this means, it could hint that maybe these guys have their own biases. Musician and superfan Akeda Keys stated in a TikTok that if the Grand Maesters are secretly running things behind the scenes in Westeros, and they've probably been part of the conspiracies against House Targaryen since the Targaryen dynasty started, what house stands a bigger threat to the Citadel's ambition of building a world based on reason than the Targaryens? A family that puts its faith in prophecies and dragons? We'll have to wait and see what happens next, but this theory makes a lot of sense. It would be interesting to watch this play out. That's a wrap for this video. Are you enjoying House of the Dragon so far? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you the next one. Thanks for watching.